Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're doing a little impromptu LinkedIn Live, Instagram Live, YouTube Live, all of that good stuff. I have a guest speaker that is going to be talking to our global speaker community. Talk your way to the top today. Her name is Sam Bennett. Now, Sam is amazing. First of all, she's got tons of reviews on her books. They're, endorsed by incredible people. And the thing that she is really known for is productivity. How to have a really productive life. And what does it mean, this 15-minute method that she talks about? So we're going to be drilling into those interesting concepts and learning how we as speakers, authors, and entrepreneurs can be more productive and make the most of our opportunities. Sam, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tara. Hi, everybody. Great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. So, Sam, you've got these incredible books. I sent you my book like a week ago. You already read it.
I read it.
You're a prolific reader. I love that. What got you into this? I would love to hear a little bit of your background story.
Reading, actually. I learned to read very early, very young, and I love to read. It's still my second favorite narcotic. And I think, and it turned me into a theater kid. I mean, I think there's a pretty short step between loving a story and wanting to share the story. Somebody asked me once what was the first play I remember doing, and I was in kindergarten, and my mother was with me in that conversation, and she goes, "Oh, Sam," she goes, and I said, "I remember doing a production of Stone Soup." You guys remember that folk tale, Stone Soup?
I do.
Right? And we did a little drama of it in my kindergarten class, and my mother said, "Oh, Sam," she goes, "you didn't just do it." She goes, "You produced it." She said, "You made them do it. You brought in the script and you brought in the costumes and you made them." I'm like, I was 4. Like, how did I even know what a play was? But, artists don't choose it. It chooses us, right? So, and I was a theater kid. That was all. I went to theater camp. I went to school for theater. I dropped out of Northwestern University to take a job at the Second City Theater in Chicago. If any of you are familiar with Second City, it's one of the legendary comedy theaters, which meant I was hanging around with Steve Carell and Steve Colbert and Rachel Dratch and Jim Belushi and all the people. We were just kids together, and then I had one of those acting careers, in Chicago, and then I moved to Los Angeles. That went well enough that you didn't want to give up on it. I mean, I was actually, I was on Days of Our Lives. I was on Modern Family. I was on the Drew Carey Show. I worked, but not enough to actually support a person. And it meant my life was just this constant jobs and gigs and projects and shows and producing and auditioning and running around, and creatively very, very satisfying, financially disastrous. And along the way, I got really interested in this question of how do highly creative people make decisions? How do highly creative people promote themselves? How do highly creative people know what to do? Because when you can do a lot of things, what should you do? Should you have a podcast? Should you become a speaker? Should you stand on the corner with a sandwich board? Like, what do you do? And of course, there is no right answer to that question, right? There is no the way. There is just your way. There is no right way. There are just the ways that matter to you. And while we're talking about productivity, let me underline this. Productivity is not about getting more done. It's about getting more of what matters done. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how you can change your life in 15 minutes a day or less, so that you can have a life that matters to you.
There's so much to unpack there. One, we're all creative people, right? So I don't think anybody writes a book or speaks on stage or goes into theater because they're not creative, right? These are all creative things. But what I've found too is that, a multi-talented person can never be understood by a singularly talented individual. or should not be in a box. We just don't fit in boxes, right?
That's correct. So first of all, just to get our terms clear, everyone is creative. Not everyone is artistic, right? And we've conflated those words a little bit in our society. You hear people say like, oh, I'm not creative. Oh, yes, you are. Of course you are. Everyone's creative, because creativity has to do with innovative problem solving. So if you've ever solved a problem differently than anybody else has ever solved that problem, congratulations, you are a creative genius. So, computer coders are creative, certainly artists are creative, but just because you don't paint or act or sing doesn't mean you're not creative, right? Parenting is an inherently creative act, so honor your own creativity. And you're right, I tend to work with what I call highly creative people. Highly creative people, well, let me put it this way. Everyone has at least one zone of creative genius, right? And tip of the hat to Gay and Katie Hendricks for their work on zones of creative genius, zones of genius. Brilliant. Everyone has at least one zone of creative genius. You may not know or notice what yours is because it's so natural to you. It's so much a part of you that you don't think it's anything that special. But I guarantee there is some area of interest that has just always fascinated you. You've always been naturally good at it. You sort of have a knack for it. You think everyone must be this way, but they're not. And maybe it's even been met by your family or friends with like that, wait, you're driving how far and paying how much to go to a conference on what? And you're like, no, I'm super excited. You're like, okay. The thing, and the other way I think of this is like the thing that if somebody woke you up at 3 a.m. and said like, hey, we're going to go, XYZ. And you would be like, yeah, where are my shoes? I'm coming, right? Whatever that thing is, that is your zone of creative genius. And you probably have more than one. Highly creative people have way more than one. We have multiple zones of creative genius. So we're good at a lot of things, which can make it hard to choose. And you're right, we don't fit in a box. We don't even know there is a box half the time. We combine ideas differently than other people do. We have have faster processing speed, and we are an endless font of ideas. Highly creative people have a grillion ideas all the time. We have ideas in the morning. We have ideas at night. We have ideas about our ideas. We have ideas about other people's ideas. We have ideas while we're in the middle of working on one idea. We'll have a new idea, and the new idea seems better because it's newer. And to go to your point of some people are more mono-talented or singular in their focus, you may have noticed that somebody comes to you with an idea and you start immediately zipping along about all the things they could do with it. And then their little faces do this.
Yes.
Right? Because they've only ever had the one. So
thank you for saying that.
Be a little careful. Like, don't get your muddy boots all over their garden, like,
yeah,
you think you're helping and you may not be actually helping. You may just be confusing.
Yes, absolutely. I think you're so right on. And all of us can relate to this because we're all creative in our own way.
Yeah.
Like Doug, he uses, he's got a really amazing tech background, right? So he can tech explain to people and, bring it down to a level that's, explainable.
Yeah.
Lori, she's a samurai strategist. So what she does is she uses her Japanese heritage to help businesses in various ways of using samurai principles, right?
Yeah. Great.
Very creative people we're working with here. But at some point in time, most of us were told, you got to talk about one thing and stick with one thing, which is kind of like generic business advice, right?
I have often said that, yes, I hear that advice too. You should focus on one thing. And my experience is that people who like to focus on one thing should focus on one thing. And those of us who like to focus on several things should do that. Now, several, like a few, I think of it this way. When I lived by the beach in California, I had a very small apartment because everything's tiny near the beach. And I had a very small stove in this small apartment. And this small stove had 2 larger burners in front and 2 smaller burners in back. And I think that's about right for to have sort of 2 primary projects, probably one of which is kind of coming to a boil right now, and then maybe 2 smaller ones in back that are longer term or more at the beginning, or that you're sort of just nurturing along.
Mhm.
So a few like 3, 4, not a few like 12, 15. Okay.
Right.
On the other hand, but I also know, and more that like I pay a price for for being the kid with too many Christmas presents. I've always been like, oh look, here's a course on writing, and oh look, I'm doing coaching on this, and oh here's a course on money and spirit, and oh here's some spirituality stuff, and oh here's some. I just had a friend the other day who's a digital marketing expert, and she offered to look at my website, and she's like, okay, it looks great. She goes, but I am already confused. She's like, you got a lot of stuff going on here, and I'm like, right. So
Yeah.
you just have to know that you're making that choice, that you will confuse people.
That's right. So, going back to your 15-minute method, I think, this is something that we can all benefit from, because the way you explained it to me was so, so powerful. And, we think of all of the things, that we want to do, all of these great ideas, but ultimately, what is something that is really going to light us up?
Right.
What is that one thing? And should we focus on that every day?
So my new book is called The 15-Minute Method, The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done. And now I wish I'd called it The Subversively Simple Art of Getting It Done. I think it's more subversive than its simplicity is subversive. Here's the 15-minute method. Ready? Pens clicked? Okay. Spend 15 minutes a day, every single day, on something that matters to you. Ta-da! And scene. That's it. That's the whole, I got a whole book out of that. That's the whole idea. Now, what and how you do that is entirely up to you. If I ran the world, if I was in charge of you, I would have you pick something that lights you up, something that matters to you. I don't care if it matters to anybody else, something that matters to you, because what I notice in my work and in my life is that y'all spend all day long getting everything done for everybody, but the thing that really matters to you doesn't even make it on the list, right? It stays in a drawer. And that's not right. That's backwards, right?
Yep.
So I want you to put that thing, whatever that thing is, back on the list. And we've all heard those, reports from hospice care that, the number one regret of the dying is, I wish I had done more of what I wanted to do and less of what I thought would make other people happy. Because if it hasn't escaped your notice yet, we don't actually have the power to make other people happy. It would be delightful if we did, but we don't.
I had a mentor once that sort of framed it this way: inputs and outputs. You're saying you're making other people, you're working on their inputs to you, and it's taking away from the outputs that you have. So you really need to focus on what you want to output and bring out to the world. It's just some different way to frame what you just said, I think.
Right. And actually what I heard when you said that is inputting to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we put out to everybody else, but where are you getting plugged in? And I can hear, and I know, especially parents with young children or, super demanding jobs, you have that like, well, where do I even like, I need weeks. I need, I can't do my thing in 15 minutes. I want to write a book. I need to clean out the garage. Like that needs 2 weekends. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, show me those 2 weekends. Where are those on your calendar? Because I'm here to tell you, you don't have them. And if you did have them, you don't want to spend them in the garage.
Right.
But if you did, say, start with 15 minutes a day, say to write a book, if you spend 15 minutes a day writing, you can get out about 200, 250 words. In 200 days, that's 50,000 words. That's a book.
Yeah.
So where were you 200 days ago, and would you like to have a book right now? Tara talks about in her book, 1 degree better every day. If you spent 15 minutes on your social media, on your financial planning, on your clutter clearing, on whatever it is that your health and well-being, every medical and health specialist in the universe will tell you that 15 minutes a day of moving your body in whatever way you like to move your body has exponentially positive effects on your mental and physical health. And even things like the garage, like, let's say, we're going to, the first time, set your timer for 15 minutes, get a mug of something you like, go to the garage and don't do anything, just contemplate. Just be with the garage. Observe the garage. See what the garage has to say to you, just soak it in. And it may be that at minute 12, you go, wait a minute. Those 7 boxes belong to my brother, Jeffrey. You call Jeffrey, get over here and get these boxes. Right? Well, now you cleaned out a whole corner and you don't have to do a thing. And maybe the next day you go out again, maybe a mug of something, and you look in one of the Rubbermaid totes and you notice that it has all the holiday stuff in it. And you go, oh, okay. And you put a sign on it that says holiday. And then you put it to the back because you only need that stuff once a year. Check, check, done. And maybe the next day you take that broken bicycle and you roll it out to the street corner and you put a sign on it that says free broken bicycle. And, in this fashion, we can clear out the garage in 15 minutes a day. And I know sometimes people feel like, oh, but that's selfish. If I spent if I spent that time on me every day, like that would be selfish. Everybody, people need me. My kids need me. People need me. Okay, first of all, not for 15 minutes, they don't. They'll be fine. And second of all, you got it backwards. Because what's really selfish? What's actually selfish is you walking around exhausted and stressed out and with no sense of humor, and the rest of us have to deal with you like that. That is an imposition. That is selfish. You show up having done your 15 minutes. Oh, there's my cat Mahidabel. Now it looks like I have a cat hat.
I love it.
You spend 15 minutes on something that matters to you, and all of a sudden there's a light in your eyes. You're calmer. You're less reactive. You're a better listener. We love this version of you. Please, please be this version of you.
I think that's really powerful. I make it a point to build me first every single day. So before I answer client emails, before I start working on business or posting on social media or checking my phone mindlessly, I think about what do I need first.
Yes.
And you know what? Because life gets in your way and work comes in and employees come in or clients come in. And then by the end of the day, you haven't done anything to move the needle forward for you when people are expecting you, right?
That's right.
To have this, productivity because you're the leader. They're looking to you like you're the leader, right?
Well, that's exactly right. And especially when you are an artist, a speaker, an author, an entrepreneur, you are the engine pulling the train.
Yeah.
Right? And if you are not fueled and aflame, clear and decisive, and have some level of energy, it's not going to happen, right? You cannot let your priorities be hijacked by other people. That's not, as you say, that's not leadership, right? That's you being your own executive assistant. And that is beneath your pay grade. You're worth more than that. So yeah, and I do my 15 minutes before I've even rolled over in bed in the morning. I do I do this little breathing and prayer and meditation practice that I sort of have made up for myself. And boy, when I don't do it, I can watch my life go right off the rails. And then I think, why are things not going well? And I'm like, oh, because I haven't been doing my thing. When I do my thing, I'm like, sure enough, I'm back on track.
Wow. What you're describing too with what's the one thing that gets you out of bed that, at 3 a.m. somebody would say, hey, let's go do this thing. And you're like, yes. Goes back to kind of what Laurie teaches too with Ikigai. And, finding your purpose and, what you're designed to do. What's that one thing, right, that really lights you up? And I think that's really powerful. Laurie, do you have any thoughts on that? I would just love to hear if you have any thoughts on what Sam said.
Oh, yes. I've been resonating everything with what you said. I have so right-brained. It's huge. Left brain is diminished.
Don't say that, Laurie.
Well, and I'll tell you, here's one of, so in my very informal and non-scientific study of creativity, one of the only biological markers for high creativity that I've been able to find is not so much that we are more right-brained or left-brained, and that maybe that's not even actually a thing, not sure. But what we are is more both-brained. So we make more connections between more things more of the time, which is how we get that fast processing speed. It's how we're able to make those unusual connections, find those unusual solutions, think on multiple planes at the same time. You know, we're sort of always playing 3D chess, like they used to play in Star Trek, right? Those multiple levels of. So yes, so you're not more one brain or the other brain, but you are mega brained. You have a highly connective brain.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question, but Ikigai is a game changer. You know, when you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you get paid for, and then combining them. But I found that the Okinawans, what you can get paid for is not as, or what the world needs. If your Ikigai does not serve other people, it's really not Ikigai.
Yeah.
And I like to teach it from the Okinawan point of view, because I think that some things get a little westernized, and Japanese practices like Kaizen and all these things are great, but I like to, because I am Japanese, I like to stay as close to the Japanese principle as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, we're Americans. If we get it, we'll dumb anything down. It's one of the things we're best at.
That's why we need Lori in this world to teach us the right ways.
Things that are subtle and sophisticated and just turning them into dummy food. But sometimes a little simplicity is also helpful. Yes, and the thing with Ikigai and with any of with these things that you love to do is when you are in line with your values, right, with what matters to you, you don't need motivation. You don't need accountability. You don't need even a structure, really. I mean, it's, it can be supportive, but, I mean, I have 3 cats. You just met one of them. I don't need, they may wake me up every morning at dawn, which is sometimes 4 a.m. in the summer, to feed them. Well, I don't need to be motivated to wake up and feed them. That is part of my duty of care to them as the animals that live with me. So, of course, I wake up, I feed them, I go back to sleep. Luckily, I'm a good sleeper, but nobody has to tell me to do it. I don't have to, I don't have to enroll in a program to tell me to take care of the animals that live with me. That aligns with my values. Same thing for you, right? So when you build a business that aligns with your values, again, I don't need to be motivated to show up and do my work every day. I love my work. It excites me. It stimulates me. It's the greatest art project I've ever had, is building a business. And not only that, and this is especially true for authors and speakers, I think, because your business is messaging, but when you build a business that is in line with your values, your business itself gets to be a vehicle for good in the world. Right? So the values of my business, are creativity, authenticity, kindness, good humor, and what we call the perfect word. It has to do with sort of being exceptionally literate and careful in our languaging as much as we can. And I take these 5 words and I give them to my website designer. And I say, do whatever you want, but it needs to look creative, authentic, fun, kind, and literate. I have a problem. This almost never happens, but let's say I had somebody who didn't want to pay me, right? Or wanted a refund long after the refund policy had expired. Well, first of all, I'll just give it back to them, because if I haven't helped you, I don't want your money. And if, doesn't, I'll always give, don't tell everybody, but I'll always give people money, no matter what. But again, because it hardly ever happens, so it's never been an issue. But let's say somebody was kicking up a fuss and I didn't want to give them their money back or something. I would then think to myself, well, what is the creative, authentic, kind, good-humored, literate way to respond to this? And now I've got to come from, right? Now I've got a way to handle it that is not, obviously, I'm not going to go to small claims court, because that is none of those things, right? But I might, initiate a conversation, or it's going to affect the tone of my communication. It's going to affect the decisions I make. And it ensures that I am always building a business that is reflective of my values and that, again, is a force for good out in the world.
I love that. That's so powerful. But it starts with clarity of yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's the first step for anybody, regardless of if they're a speaker, author, entrepreneur, whatever. The first step is knowing who you are before you can properly serve someone else.
Correct.
For sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I'd start with the things you've been criticized for.
Ooh.
Right? Because probably when you were growing up, somebody told you were too something. Right?
For me, it was talkative.
Too talkative. And then you go, wait a minute, I'm a speaker. You get paid for being talkative, right? You are professionally talkative. I got criticized for being too sensitive.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So too sensitive. Well, I might have been too sensitive for third grade. I might have been too sensitive for my mom, but I'm not too sensitive for the planet. I'm just sensitive. And now I've created a job for myself where I get to be professionally sensitive, right? So yeah, whatever the thing you're a two of, that's your superpower.
I love that. I got moved my first day of kindergarten for talking too much, and the teacher sent home a note from my mother. The first day.
I had the two talks too much in class part of my conduct thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, what was something you were told you were too much of?
Would you
If
believe
anything.
yes. Would you believe being quiet?
Really? You're too
Yes,
quiet?
I refused to raise my hand until I think my fourth grade teacher said, I'm not giving Lori an A or B. She'll get a C or D if she does not answer questions.
Consequences.
Wow, that's so interesting. And now you've completely done a 180, and now you're a professional speaker. Two-time TEDx speaker, by the way, Sam. She's very, very humble, this lady. But
Amazing.
yes, that's interesting. So the thing you're too much of, and then what lights you up.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I like that.
Yeah.
What about, maximizing a book? Because like I said, we're all authors, right? Some of us have one book, some of us are working on our second or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And here's Archie. Archie apparently also wants to be part of the game.
Well, hello, Archie.
They're twins. Archie and Mehetibel are twins. That's why
Oh,
if you think that looks like the other one, it's because they're brother and sister.
They're both twins. That's right. What are some of the great ways we can maximize a book? One of the things that I always tell folks that work for me is, your book is a business card, right? So sending it out to people on your prospect list that, would be your targeted prospects, mailing the physical book to them, because I feel like that is something that not enough people do, is actually mail something to people. But when they receive it, it's a gift. And
Absolutely.
people are very excited to get a book that they didn't know what was coming to them. And this really can open up the door. But I would love to hear any other, tips or strategies that you've personally used.
Yeah, well, I want to plus what you're saying first, because you're exactly right. First of all, there's an enormous opportunity in people's mailboxes now, right? It used to be junk mail, junk mail, junk mail. I can't believe I get so much junk mail. And we all hated it. And now there's nothing in the mailbox, right? So any kind of mail is going to get attention, and particularly what we call lumpy mail, right? Something with something in it. We get excited. And you're in good company. I once asked Seth Godin this exact question of like, okay, my book's been out for a year. Now what do I do? And he said, make a list of the 50 most influential people you know and mail them a copy of the book. And what I did was I had these envelopes made up, right? They look like FedEx envelopes, sort of. You can see, they say, by the way, you look really great today.
I love that.
And they fit actually 2 books. So I would put 2 books in here, and and with a little note that said, here are 2 books, one to keep and one to give away.
Yes.
Right. So Seth agrees with you. The thing to remember is really, okay, so remember first of all, most books sell between 200 and 2,000 copies total lifetime.
Yep.
200 for self-published, 2,000 for traditionally published. That's a lot of work to affect not very many people. So if you have done better than that, you should feel very good about yourself. And the real thing to remember too is we all sell books one at a time.
Thank you for saying that. That's such a real thing to say because not many people, we talk about our successes, but ultimately it is one at a time.
I remember one of the other things I did when my first book came out is I was living in a very small little beach town in California called Carpinteria. Heaven, perfect heaven. And I went around to a couple of the stores. Now, you have to know this about me. I am not only introverted, I am crushingly shy. I know I don't look like I'm shy. I don't seem like I'm shy, but I am hugely shy. If we were in a room together and you said, Sam, go over and introduce yourself to that lady in the red sweater, I would die. I would run out of the room. I would break out into a sweat. I would do anything to not have to do that. Right.
Really?
Now, if you introduce me, I will talk. But for me to just go, hi, I'm Sam.
Sam, you and I are a lot alike.
Yeah.
In a networking event, I'm the guy over by the bar waiting for somebody to come over and talk, but I'm not, if nobody comes over, I'm just having drinks.
100%. You and me, we'll get a glass of bourbon. We'll just sit there quietly. That is exactly right. That's exactly me. I'm at the far corner in the far back. It's also a tall person thing. I'm 5'11", so tall people.
Okay, 6'3". That must be it. We just don't like to we're going to try to blend.
It's a lifetime of being told to go to the back. Tall people in back. But I was like, well, Sam, what's more important to you, your shyness or your book?
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I drove around to a couple of the boutiques and stores. There's only one bookstore, but there was some other, shops that had stuff. And I just walked during them and I said, hi, my name is Sam. I'm a local author. I live in town. I just wrote this book. Would you like to, carry some of them? And I think everybody said yes. And I had to sell them to them because I couldn't, they don't give you books for free. I mean, they give you a few books for free, but so I was like, I can sell them to you for $10 a piece and you can sell them for 15. And they were like, yeah, sure. That's fine. So it's all, it's all one at a time. And, one podcast at a time, one customer at a time, one Amazon review at a time, one book launch team at a time. It's just, it's just one foot in front of the other, and you're not done. I mean, it's funny. I coach writers, and I was just teaching this morning, and my friend Christine Carlson, whose husband was Richard Carlson, who wrote "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff" and created the "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff" empire. She reminds me often that "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff" was Richard's 10th book.
That's a good perspective.
It's his 10th book. So,
yeah.
Well, there's no magic formula though. It's everything everybody tells you to. It's have the right target market, keep talking to them, don't ever stop talking about it. Have a great cover design, have great, all that stuff matters. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that because, in today's world, we want instant gratification because that's what we see on social media. Everybody looks like they came from zero to rocket ship in about 2 months, right? And that's not realistic, and it's not real.
It's not real. If you talk to those people about what actually is happening, it's not real. It's those same people who are like, oh yeah, we had a 6-figure launch or a 7-figure launch. Yeah, but it cost you 6 figures to run it. Right? Or okay, you brought in 6 figures, but how was your returns? They're not talking about their, those super hypey things. People, they high pressure people into buying stuff, but then they get a lot of returns because people wake up the next day and go, what did I do? No, refund, please. Right? This is another good reason to avoid high pressure sales tactics. No returns.
I like that.
Yeah.
So true. Guys, Lori, Doug, any questions for Sam?
Again, we're spirit animals or something of a lot of
twinsies.
Things she had. But it's a good thing 15 minutes works because that's about all I can stand to write at one point in time. I just need to do it every day because shiny object syndrome comes into play, and I'm okay. Well, let's drill down the internet to find out what's going on down here. So,
Right.
thanks for the. I'll just start practicing 15 minutes today.
Excellent. Yeah, it's great. I mean, set your timer, really. And, I've got a thing that I sell on my website, that website with too many things, called the Daily Practicum. And it's a subscription thing. And every weekday for 15 minutes, starting at 12 noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, 5 British summertime, we hop on the Zoom, say hello, set the timer for 15 minutes. Everybody turns their cameras off, put their heads down. 15 minutes later, timer goes off. And the gallery of glowing, practically post-orgasmic faces look up at me. And they say, Sam, I did it. I made that phone call. I've been putting off making that phone call for 6 weeks, and I made the phone call today. I made it. I'm like, amazing. And somebody else says, Sam, I did it. I wrote that note to my friend. She just lost her husband, and I didn't know what to say, but I really wanted to reach out. So I just did it. I just wrote her the note, and it's stamped, and it's ready to go. Amazing. Somebody else says, I just sat in the garden for 15 minutes with the sun on my face. Amazing. Right? I just clutter cleared this much of my closet. Amazing. I just wrote for 15 minutes. Amazing. And there is real magic, I think, especially in writing, but in everything. When you're touching it every day, even if it's just for this much, the momentum that you get, and it kind of lets the angels know you're serious, right? Like all the, one of the things our brain does best is find what it's looking for, right? This is one of the magical things that the human brain does, is finds what it's looking for. So when you are touching your project every day, you're spinning on it more, you're finding other opportunities, you'll find those people to talk to, things happen when you do. Here's the bottom line. When you do things happen.
Preach it.
Right?
Preach it.
Marketing works, sales works, and when you do things happen.
It's true. I'm going to start incorporating this. I think we all should, because, we can start today. I know it's in the afternoon, but starting tomorrow, maybe the first 15 minutes of our day, let's try to devote it to something that fills our cup.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. Like, it makes you more glowy. You actually serve better when you serve yourself first.
That's right. And it makes some logical sense. Like if I practiced my ukulele every day for 15 minutes, in not very long of a time, I would become a better ukulele player. Now, does the world need better ukulele players? I don't know. I've never tried.
Stick with writing. Stick with writing and speaking.
Stick with writing and speaking. But we can sort of see that, yes, that would yield a result, but it doesn't feel like it would, right? Like you're like, 15 minutes. Oh, it's just 15 minutes. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. I'll do it. But I do recommend doing it. Do it at whatever time works for you is step one. But if you're looking for advice, I would do it first thing in the morning, because you know how it is the rest of the day. The minute you open your email, the day is gone. Like it's 4 PM and you're exhausted. So just, give it to yourself first. And again, sending that strong signal to your inner self. It's like when you're doing it every day, again, even just for 15 minutes, like your inner self is going, oh, I think she's serious. Like, oh, I think we're actually doing this. Oh, okay, great. And then you're like, and the body is a pleasure-seeking mechanism, right? The more you do it and it's something that matters to you, so it feels good, the more you will want to do it. And again, you won't need discipline. I have a friend named Allison Bird, who's a wonderful speaker. And she one time had a Facebook post, and she's a coach too. And she said, I do not offer accountability. She goes, if you are looking for accountability, look somewhere else, because accountability is just a grown-up word for babysitting. And that's not what I do. She's like, I work with people who are jumping off the couch to get their stuff done. And if you're not that motivated, go find somebody else. And I'm like, yeah.
I'm going to steal that. Hold on.
Right? I'm like, no, I'm not going to keep you accountable. I'm not your mom. No. But I will also say, but things like the Daily Practicum, because people have paid for it. So that, that makes a difference when you're invested a little bit. It happens at the same time every weekday. So there's a schedule to it. And it's funny because there's some people who come every day. There's some people who come sometimes. And there's some people who never show up in person, but the fact that they've paid for it and it's on their calendar means that they do it at some other point in time. So it's cool.
Well, and we can all time block. I've found that to be such a tremendous asset, because if it's not on, I live by my calendar. So if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist to me.
That's
I
great.
have to literally put in my calendar workout time.
Yeah.
Prep this or do that and this and that. If it's not on there, it doesn't happen. So I've incorporated the first part of my day now to my passions. So applying to a speaking gig first thing in the morning, writing my book, these things, because if I don't do it, it does not get done. And there's nobody to hold me accountable.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, even when you succeed, who are you going to tell, you know? And I'll tell you what I love, one of my favorite inventions is the calendar invite.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you just, like, for example, I don't like to work Friday afternoons, right? Once we're done here, I'm going to be, while we're recording this, it's Friday, by the way. When we're done with this, I'm done for the day, right? But I'm only done for the day because I have that time blocked out on my calendar. Like after a certain point on Friday afternoon, you can't book a time with me. And I love that, because if somebody just said to me, hey, Sam, do you want to meet Friday at 3? I would just say yes, because I'm a pushover like everybody. Like, sure, if it's convenient for you, yeah, sure, friend. And then I'd be kind of begrudging because I'd be because I don't want to work Friday afternoons. But now with the Calendly, or I use Appointment Core, I don't have to say. It's just not even possible. And I used to put block out date night on there. I had my workouts in there. I've started removing Mondays, because I have like my inside days and my outside days, right? Which is sort of, do I need to put on lipstick or do I not need to put on lipstick days? And I find, and Mondays are usually sort of my admin days. Like I tend to do a lot of the bookkeeping, accounting, email, catch up, paperwork stuff. But if I have a call or a meeting or a podcast interview or something, like I'm always kind of spinning on that a little bit, and it distracts me a little bit during the day. So I'm not as productive. So I've started blocking out Mondays too, that like, now I don't do calls on Mondays. I just do work on Mondays. And then
you bring up something that I preach a lot as well. I call it the rarity effect. When our calendars have Monday, 9 a.m. through whatever open, and it's like 20 slots, and then the next day is 20 slots, you don't seem as high value to someone who is a prospective client. Block off your time, and your time is very valuable. And when you block off your time to where there's 1 or 2 a week, that person has to fit in, and they see that you are highly valued because your time is just non-existent on the calendar. And I call it the rarity effect. There's a reason why diamonds cost more. The perceived value, because they're rarer. Same thing we can do with our time as speakers.
Right. And here's a little pro tip on the thing I use anyway. And I assume other platforms have this. There's a little toggle switch that says, make me look busy.
Ooh, make me look busy?
And it will only show people, you can say only show people 2 slots available a day or 3 slots available a day.
It works.
It works.
It works. And then all of a sudden you can start charging more for coaching and these type of things because you're seen as in demand.
Yeah.
But it also helps save your sanity, because then you're not having a bunch of appointments all the time.
Well, exactly. And again, I don't have to work to keep my free time or have my date night or have my workout, because it's in it's non-negotiable. It's in the calendar. It's already happening. I don't give myself the choice.
That's right. I love that. That is so cool. Did you guys learn some good stuff from Miss Sam today?
I did. I really did.
She's fun. I like Sam.
Thanks.
Well,
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Congratulations on all of your success, Sam. And, not just with your books, but with you teaching other people that they should put themselves first. It's really a service that you have with your book. And, I'm sure it resonates with all of your readers for sure. But I would love to know if you could divulge Have you had somebody that was a reader that came up to you, or maybe they left a review that really stuck out to you, that you maybe changed their life in a way or helped shape their perspective or anything like that come to mind?
I got an, thank you for asking that. I got an email just recently from a guy in he said he's from Philadelphia, so he's a natural born hater. And he got my
Santa
book.
Claus, you hate everybody.
He got my book on a free Audible, because I did I've narrated all my books, and so he got the Audible version on some service for free. And he said he started listening to it and he didn't care for it. So he stopped. But then it sort of was niggling at him, so he went back and started to listen to it again. And he said he had now listened to it 3 times straight through. And it had given, and not only did he start doing the 15-minute thing, but it had given him the courage to quit the job he's been trying to quit for 9 years.
Wow.
Right? And he told me the story about how he went in and he and his, well, I'll tell you this part.
Love that.
He and his boss, who also happens to be his father. This is part of one of the reasons he hasn't been able to quit, because it's his family business. So they're talking about summer plans and, who's taking vacation when, and he's negotiating with his dad about that, and they settle on some dates. And then he says, right, so, and then after this date in August, I won't be back. And his dad said, okay.
Wow. He stood up for himself.
And the thing that he thought was going to be a big blowout, crazy, emotional, it was fine.
His dad was probably waiting for him to do that.
100%.
Yeah.
Believe me, when you want to quit, everybody else wants you to quit too.
Yeah. Even your dad.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing when people are like, oh, I'm considering divorce. I'm like, oh, I think the ship has sailed. I think what you're looking for is permission.
Yeah.
If you've already mentally sorted who's getting which piece of furniture,
I know
the marriage is pretty much done. Just because a marriage ends doesn't mean it failed. Just because you quit a job doesn't mean you failed. Just means it ended. Right?
Wow, that's a great story.
Isn't that great?
That is.
So it really is one of those things where you just feel like, wow, if that's all that ever happens.
Yes, I love that. I had a friend of mine from the UK. He bought my book, and he bought it just to support me, Thank God one person, it's like, oh, thank God. Because we do sell one by one.
Right.
But he bought it, and not that he needed help with confidence, but then he bought it, and then he started a gratitude journal and all these things. And now my book is on his bedside table permanently, and he references it like you would reference anything. And he said, I never knew I needed help until I read your book. And then he reads it all the time now. And it's funny how that works and happens, but it's amazing. What a gift.
So wonderful. So wonderful. Is there anything you guys are wondering about specifically that I can help with? Anything with your own projects that?
Lori?
I mean, you got me here, and I charge a ton an hour. So
I hit it 15 minutes. I'm just going to, excuse me, I'm going to go take 15 minutes now. And
I love it. I love it.
But I think the big message is find your prospects who are your top prospects, mailing out physical copies of your book, making it personable, right? Authentic.
Right. And like a handwritten note, like a real thing. Like
it works, guys. It's crazy how much it works too. Yeah. Deans of universities, CEOs of companies, the bigger, the better. Send them. They love it. Nobody gives CEOs and high-level people gifts anymore. They always expect things from them. True. So if you're the one person that gives them a gift unannounced, they'll remember you.
I do have something that I'd like to share. On the 28th and 29th, I'm having not me, I'm co-authoring a book with Roger Love. So I'm behind in this project. So I'm going to be sending out memes, but I think there's 15 authors, and it's been great. I'm not going to say this online, but Roger Love is legendary, but the cover doesn't look legendary.
That
Do you
happens.
have the
But
cover?
congratulations. That's, I mean, all writing is good writing. So good for you. Well done. And well done finding a mentor and a partner that you respect.
Oh, he's wonderful. He's the voice coach to like the stars and singers, and
Oh, that's great.
Tony Robbins was one of his clients.
Mhm.
So
And he's doing okay. I hear Tony's doing all right.
yeah, he is.
And
So-
I've got a book with Lori and Doug. They're co-authors, and the new book coming out on the 1st of October.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Isn't that amazing?
The
Yeah.
co-authoring is actually a great experience, and because the first one I did was a co-author with 10 people, and you learn so much from the others that are in the group, because we sort of got online. We said, okay, we're gonna knock our chapter out over this weekend. And at that time, I think the longest piece I'd ever written was about 300 words for a blog post. I'm going to get an entire, and I just got in the zone. That one, or 3,500 words. That's the most I've written in any one time that came out. That was it. But it was listening to all these other. Well, I was listening to all these stories, but then the imposter syndrome came in. Well, man, they had life and death. They're a lot more impressive than what your story is, and then trying to sort of figure that piece. Quietening that out and then getting in and typing, and it was much longer than 15 minutes, but it was a good experience.
Good for you. That's terrific.
I love
Well
that.
done.
Cool. Well,
Hers
Sam,
was easier. She gave me freedom of this. Write about this. Sorry.
yeah, I was just like, hey, Doug, write about this thing. You're good.
Excellent.
Anyway, well, thank you so much, Sam, for being an amazing, contributor today, and for reading my book, Speed Reader over here. Love it.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, enlightening us with your wisdom. But I think we could all use this takeaway. You come first. You matter most. So focus on you for the first 15 minutes or more every day. If you
That's
want to
right.
do 30 minutes, hey, even better, right?
Even better.
But start somewhere.
Yes.
Start somewhere.
Exactly. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Doug, I'll see you at the family reunion of our
Tall,
teams.
shy people that sit over in the corner. Yes.
Exactly. I'll bring the bourbon.
You have to find one of us to set it up, and that's going to be a problem because we don't like it.
Good point.
That's funny.
Okay,
All
thanks so
right.
much, everybody.
Take care.